people would be discussing Mike Norvell's buyout. I thought that was only going to happen in Gainesville, but here we are.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen. This is a marriage that you're going to have to. This marriage needs some kids. How does that sound? That's probably the best way to describe it. I mean, you're locked in for right now it'd be $84 million, but after the 2024 season, I think it's $64.5 million guaranteed that he would be owed out of the remainder of his contract. I want to say it's 85% of the remainder of the contract. So, yeah, the difference between this and Gainesville is that you can blow it up in Gainesville and start from scratch. But at Florida State, Mike Norvell better find a way to change what he's doing, because that's going to be the deal over there for at least, I would say, a minimum of 3 more years.
Now, Rick, an article came out last week, and one of the coaches in college football called the Florida State defensive line tender. Does that word describe the defensive play so far of what you've seen?
I actually thought that their effort a couple of days ago was the best I've seen in 3 games. Marvin Jones Jr. in a couple of plays made business decisions, which is not a good thing on the football field. But I thought particularly the interior, I thought it was a better day for Farmer. I thought it was a better day for Daryl Jackson. It's the most effort I've seen. And frankly, especially after 3 turnovers, Florida State's defense, very similar to the Jaguars, Florida State's defense was good enough to win that game against Memphis. It was the, just colossal mistakes and the play calling made on the offensive side. So one of the biggest stories, no doubt, so far is this defensive line that reportedly was paid $2.5 million in the NIL for all 4 of these guys who are expected to be fairly early picks in, April's National Football League draft. But especially in the case of Patrick Payton, who, if you look at him, his length, his body, the way that he is, you would think that he is maybe a pass rush specialist in the NFL. They had him in coverage 3 times. He got beat on each and every one of those 3, including the game-deciding touchdown for Memphis. And you got to ask yourself, why are you taking your best pass rusher and dropping him back when, you need more of a burst getting to your opponent's quarterback? So, yeah, I think that's a fair term. This Florida State defensive line has been, a huge disappointment, but I do think they played better this past Saturday.
Rick, do you want to see a quarterback change from DJ Uiagalelei to Brock Glenn?
Well, I don't think Brock Glenn's the guy. I think it's Ruud Kromenhoek who's going to end up being the quarterback. But I watched him practice twice, so that's what I saw. Now, I talked with people who witness it daily, and, unfortunately, the word coming out of Tallahassee is that Glenn and Kromenhoek, neither one of the 2 have done enough in practice where you're like, yeah, okay, well, let's bring him into the football game. The wording is DJ Uiagalelei still gives them the best chance to win. He's getting, he's the victim here. He's getting picked on by everyone, and I get it. He's a quarterback with 40 career starts, and it's been terrible. But I think the play calling has been atrocious. The strength of what we thought would happen with Florida State's offense was their rushing attack, and that has been non-existent. And then you look at 7 drops 2 weeks ago against BC. They had 3 more huge drops Saturday against Memphis, including Keziah Holmes, who, if he catches a simple screen pass, he takes it in for a touchdown. So the long-winded answer is, yeah, I'd like a quarterback change only because DJ Uiagalelei, whether they win games or they lose games, he's nothing more than a Band-Aid. And what I think Florida State has to do now is keep these younger guys around. Don't let them hop into the transfer portal. And the only reason that you're going to be able to accomplish that is by playing these younger guys and getting them ready for next year. See, the Florida State fan base has already sacrificed this season, and they're like, get ready for next year and see what you can do. But that's not what Mike Norvell is thinking. He's thinking, I got to win a football game. Can I get it done against Cal this weekend? That's why he, doubled back again today and made it crystal clear to everyone that DJU is going to remain his starting quarterback.
I think an interesting conversation, Rick, that we've talked about when it comes to Norvell, and I know you talked about it in the beginning, but a lot of people point to the fact that his record outside of Jordan Travis. But it's interesting to me because I feel like a majority around college football, if you don't have the quarterback, it usually doesn't look good. And you can list a lot of examples. I mean, even if you go back to Brian Kelly's time at Notre Dame, a lot of their Achilles heel was just they never had the quarterback to take them over that hump. Do you think that record with and without Jordan Travis is what is leading to this conversation, or do you just think overall product right now is more so what's leaning towards that Norvell frustration?
Well, I mean, it's a fair number, and I think it's 2-11 now without Travis. I mean, the only two wins were Louisville, Florida, and Louisville. I mean, that's fair. That number doesn't lie. But the point is interesting, Taylor, because this is where you put yourself. Okay, what if you go through this season with only DJU? And, even last year, Florida State was never good enough. They won 19 straight games. This sounds ludicrous, but it's the truth. Florida State's not good enough where they put teams away where you could get your second and third team quarterback reps. And the best teams in college football do that. You would think a team that won 19 in a row would be in that position, but it was never the case. So do you have a quarterback? And in order to win today in college football, you need a great quarterback. Let's just say that DJU rolls out the rest of this season. Then you're going to go into 2025, and it's going to be the same deal. It's going to be, who's the quarterback? Is it Brock Glenn? Is it Luke Kromenhoek? And you're going to look at their numbers and see that they have had almost zero experience. So by doing it this way, not only is he cost Florida State the 2024 season, but he's putting them in a bind in 2025 because you don't know who the quarterback is going to be. That's why Florida State fans are like, okay, we get it. This season is awful, but at least play a quarterback who is your future so you can look at things and say, all right, it is Glenn, it is Kromenhoek, or it's neither of the two. Then you've got to go back out there and you've got to find yourself another quarterback. I mean, I know you got the freshman here who's hurt at Mandarin, who's coming in, or do you go through the transfer portal and try to bring in another veteran? So, that's the biggest concern right now with Mike Norvell is that, in my opinion, if this doesn't change, he's sacrificing the 2025 season under center as well.
Rick, let's look at this week's game going up against Cal. They've played two pretty easy teams, and then they've beaten Auburn. They have a quarterback who's pretty good in Fernando Mendoza, not as good as Seth Hennigan for Memphis was, but they also have a rushing attack that could be pretty good with Javion Thomas. How do you see, I was shocked, honestly, that Florida State was favored, but how do you see this week's game going?
Well, I actually stayed up late night and watched them. They played San Diego State, and it was a fairly entertaining game, and it's one of these classic old-school Pac-12 type of offenses that can do a lot of different things. And, I haven't taken a deep dive into Cal, and frankly, I don't even know if I will before kickoff. I mean, I did on Memphis, and it really didn't do me any good. Yeah. We'll see what happens here with Cal. But, yeah, I mean, to pick Florida State right now is no, right? I mean, Cal, I'll say one thing about Cal. Not only do they look like an entertaining football team, but they showed a ton of juice. They showed a lot of excitement. I think I made that point to you ladies back in week one when Florida State looked so flat in Dublin. It was that Notre Dame Texas A&M game, and then it was the LSU USC game on back-to-back nights. And yeah, there were two winners and two losers, but the game was exciting, and both teams looked like they were totally into it, and it was almost disappointing that there had to be a loser. That's the way I looked at Cal again the other night. Looks like they're having a good time out there. The effort is not in question, and all of these things that, you say about Florida State have been true. I mean, the film does not lie, and you got players there that are not giving it 110%. So, I mean, right now on a Tuesday, you have to pick Cal. And where I'm at with this schedule, I don't think I can pick Florida State again this year until they win a football game. That's what they have to do first.
Or until they play Florida.
Yeah, somebody has to win that week.
And that's no guarantee there either. I mean, there's a lot of, especially when you look at injuries on both sides. I mean, what could that roster look like in 10 weeks?
Yeah, Rick, I'm going to read you a few of the stats from that Cal game this last weekend, and I feel like this is the key to success if Florida State wants to win. So Fernando Mendoza, Lauren mentioned him, but he was sacked 6 times last week. The team had 12 penalties that cost them 113 yards. They failed all 3 4th-and-1 plays. The receivers dropped like 6 passes, and their kickers 2 for 6 in the last 2 games. So I feel like there's a recipe there. If you want to win, you just got to take advantage of those things.
38-14 Cal over Florida State Saturday night. Yeah, absolutely. They absolutely made a lot of mistakes. No question about it. I wonder where they were 2 of 6 as far as field goals. Is that in one game?
And this year, they're so far.
Yeah, this year. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, listen, that should be something that, we thought was going to be a major strong point for Florida State this year, and that is, getting after the quarterback. I want to say Peyton has 1 sack. I want to say Farmer has 1 sack. I want to say Marvin Jones Jr. Doesn't have anything right now. So maybe this is a ball game in which they're able to turn it on. I know you ladies have traveled out to San Francisco and those parts as well. It's a long flight.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming in all the way this way. It is a long flight, and I think that does matter somewhat. I don't think it matters as much in the NFL because they're professionals and they've been through it. But, in this particular instance, they do catch a break with it being at night. I mean, last week's game was at noon. That would be much better served for Florida State to get them early because of jet lag, although in most instances you'd like the home team to play a night game because the fans can certainly get lathered up and they're a little bit more into it. But yeah, that'll be interesting as far as one of the intangibles going in, just how ready is Cal.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here. Thanks so much for checking out 1010XL Seminoles page. If you're looking for more college football content, you can head over to the Gators page, or if you want some professional football content, check out our 1010XL Jaguars page.